Hello, Ramley and other NFL family. Payo time here for a Sunday afternoon live stream. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching on the replay or live with me right now. I am so stoked, beyond belief, for my guest today. A lot of you have probably heard his show or seen his show. He was one of the Rams content creators that definitely inspired me to get into this YouTube journey. So please join me in welcoming the one, the only Sheriff Joe Bags of Rams Showcase. Joe, what's up?
Dude, not much, man. Thank you so much for having me back, man. It's been a while.
Dude, it's been too long, really too long, but always a pleasure to have you on this show. I know that a lot of Ram fans love your content. How many years now has Rams Showcase been going on?
We just passed our 7th birthday, so we're in season 8.
Yeah. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It is crazy. It feels like I remember it like it was yesterday. Sitting, it was 3 apartments ago, sitting facing my wall. It was just audio, and I was absolutely terrible. I was all nervous all the time and stuff. Yeah, good times, man.
That is insane. That is crazy. Well, thank you for all your hard work that you've done for Ram fans. But just I hope that this next hour or so we can just enjoy talking some Rams. I see some people are trickling in here, so thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. I should say I know all like podcast platforms Ram Showcase is on, and I have Apple Podcasts and the link to your Twitter account in the description below. So make sure, if you're not following Sheriff Joe, you gotta follow him. He's a good follow. But Sheriff Joe, I did warn you about this ahead of time, and I appreciate it. This is we've got the 3-minute timer on the clock, and people know I use this with the Rams radar on Rams Wednesdays. However, if you have a 3-minute timer, you have to use it. So when I knew you were coming on the show, I'm like, you know what? I think Joe will really like this. So we're going to give you 3 minutes here. I have 10 trivia questions about the Rams. We're going to see if you can answer all of them in under 3 minutes. Are you ready?
I guess so.
Okay, so I'm gonna read the first question and then start the timer after I read the first question. Okay. So 10 trivia questions, 3 minutes. Here we go.
All right.
Name all 4 teams the Rams beat in the playoffs to win Super Bowl 56.
Cardinals, Bucks, Niners, Bengals.
Correct. What team did the Rams beat in Week 6 last season?
Oh man, I'm gonna say Seattle. I don't know.
It was the Panthers. Who is the Rams' all-time franchise sack leader?
I'm gonna say that it's Deacon, but I feel like that's a trick question.
It's Aaron Donald.
Okay. Fair enough. Oh yeah, that just happened. Okay.
Yeah. Who is second behind Aaron Donald for sack?
I'm gonna go Deacon.
It's not.
Is it Merlin?
No.
Is it Kevin Green?
You're never gonna get this.
Okay.
And keep in mind, sacks weren't recorded for a long time. It's Leonard Little.
Oh, that's right, man. I knew that. Dang it. I'm mad at myself already. All right, let's go.
How many touchdown passes did both Warner and Stafford have for the Rams' single season record in touchdown passes?
Was 43?
41, close.
Ooh.
Who is the Rams' leader in solo tackles with 655?
That is number 55, James Laurinaitis.
Yeah, you got it. Who was the Rams head coach before Dick Vermeil?
I feel like I know it. I'm picturing a face. Pass. I don't know.
Okay.
Go
Who had more rushing yards as the Rams quarterback, Baker Mayfield or Austin Davis?
Oh, dude, that's a good question. I'm going to say it's Austin Davis, though.
It was Baker. He had 37, and Austin Davis had 36.
Oh, okay. I hate that question. All right.
True or false? The Rams have an overall winning record in their franchise history.
I think that's true right now.
That is true. 604 wins, 592 losses, 21 ties. Can you name both mascots in Rams team history? And I'll bring a photo up here. But
Obviously, Rampage. That one actually doesn't look familiar to me. I was picturing something else. Just because of the way that the people that name these things work, and especially that time period, I'm just gonna go like Ramesses.
You're kind of close. It was the Ramster.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's very rammy whammy of a name.
Yeah. And you're doing really good. We'll come back to this final question. Do you have a guess? 2 years.
I don't.
Rick Brooks.
I was not close. I would have gotten that wrong anyway if I did give an answer. Man, I did terrible. I feel like I failed for sure.
No, you did pretty good.
Did I get it? What was my total? What did I get right?
I should have been keeping track of it. Let me see. Okay, you got that one. Okay, 1, 2.
The gap between those is not building confidence.
You had 3. You had 3.
That is such an F. Oh yeah. Man.
Which
I'm gonna retake the class, man.
Well, thanks for playing. Some of those were pretty random things, but before we'll get to the chat in a moment here, and but just can we appreciate that Rampage is so much better of a mascot than the Rams?
By so much. Do you remember when they were doing the fan vote for names? They took in names from the fans, and then obviously, I think right away is once I saw Rampage, it was like, oh, that's just gonna be it. Like everybody's gonna love that.
Totally.
Rampage, I think was one. Yeah, there was a bunch.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a lot better than the Ramster here. When I saw this on the internet, I was just like, oh,
that is
those
so
eyes.
Funny. What in the Chuck E. Cheese is that thing, man? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and apparently, I don't know the full history of the Ramster, but I think he was only there in the 90s, and they got rid of him in the 96 season, I think. And then they hadn't had a mascot for a long time until Rampage.
Wait, he made the move to St. Louis?
I'm wondering if he was just part of the St. Louis, they started with him there. But I'm not sure. Maybe that's an in-depth video, to explore sometime of the history of the Ramster.
Dude, that's fun. I love that.
Oh, well, thanks for doing that here. We got Sinjin in the chat. Good to see you. And we got Willie Bowen. Good to see you. He said, since OBJ is on the Ravens, you think the Rams will re-sign? Well, sadly, we can't, Willie, because he signed with the stinking Texans. Man. Hey, Sean, can't wait for you either. Okay,
I want to jump in on that Robert Woods question real fast because I feel like people because the conversations around OBJ, and I did think that it was very realistic that he could have come back. It doesn't surprise me that he didn't, but I think that was a real conversation that people were having. But clearly, we're in a cutting stage right now, so adding people, and I know that we have a lot of rumors about the second anybody is requesting a trade, all Rams fans are like, well, he should just come to us because that's what we do, and we're clearly not in the same phase that we were 2 years ago. We're in a cutting phase right now, so we're probably not going to see any big name additions.
Well, and that's a good segue into kind of our first subject here, and I'll give a bit of context. Ram fans, we've been spoiled under the Sean McVay and Les Snead era of big trades, flashy signings, things like that. This offseason's boring, right? And it's okay to say that. Boredom isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I agree with you. I feel like anytime you see Buda Baker's available, maybe the Rams can get him, or maybe the Rams can get Derrick Henry, or maybe the Rams can get Austin Eckler. I've heard all these rumors from unreliable sources. Joe, what do you think it is about this expectation Ram fans have, where the reality is this is actually a pretty normal offseason for most NFL teams?
Well, I think for starters, you got to realize a few things. That the bill was going to be due eventually. We knew that was coming. We also are understanding right now that the Rams are in a position, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they just want to get a little younger. And that does coincide with the comments from Brad Holmes, the Lions GM, who was with the Rams since 2001 till just a couple of years ago. So, I mean, he knows our team inside and out. And his complaints about the Rams were that we were so willing to just go get veterans and weren't really focusing on younger players. So his criticism is accurate, and also that is something that the Rams already were kind of switching around this season. Like a comment says here in the thread is like there's 11 picks that this team has right now entering this draft, which is a lot. I mean, that is a lot of draft picks. Of course, there's none in the first round, but then we could also be in a situation like the Denver Broncos, who don't have a pick in the first 2 rounds and only 5 total. So we're sitting pretty solid right now. And you also look at different factors of like what positions actually need a starter. There are positions on defense that we do need starters at, but like if you look on the offensive side of the ball, you can definitely pick out some offensive linemen that we could replace or improve at or anything like that. But like, I mean, the way that the injuries all happened last year, and I think people are forgetting that our injury list looked like a full-on CVS receipt, just absolutely ridiculous. So like, I don't know. I guess my confidence level in everything is a little bit different than I think than the average fan, simply because of that. And then also we have a little bit of a time where we can kind of pull back a little bit and let some dollars fall off of our books, get a little bit younger, see what we've got in some of these younger guys, especially at the cornerback position. Now that's like, I mean, Robert Rochelle is our most, experienced corner. That's a very scary thing going into a season, but it's also April. So it's like the roster is not done being built yet. So who knows what's going to happen and what chaos could happen. And Les, I think, will always be kind of keeping his eye on stuff, even though I don't think that we're big adders this season. But let's look at the cap space we got for next offseason. Like if this feels like a dopamine dump of an offseason where we can kind of just like sit back a little bit and like, all right, cool. We ain't got to worry about all this stuff. We'll just get our draft class. 11, maybe more players than that throughout the draft is I'm sure movement will happen. This team definitely likes to move around a lot, but I don't know, man. It's this offseason doesn't bother me at all. I think that partially it is because of the success that this team has had over the last, 5-6 years. And really since the move to St. Louis, that first year sucked, but since then it's been pretty awesome. So outside of this last year, of course, only 5 wins, but I don't know, man. I feel good about this offseason. It doesn't bother me one bit. It's actually kind of nice to be able to take a breath as like a person who covers this team. And I feel like it's a bad thing to say. It's like, like we've been going all in for so long, and now it's kind of like nice to just be back in it. And I think my whole second point on that is I think that the Patriots have really ruined people's minds about how you can build and sustain a team.
Yeah.
And they did it for so long, but they did it very specifically. And let's not pretend like the Patriots were a fun team to watch throughout that entire stretch. They were very boring. They weren't flashy at all. They just kind of won and whatever. They moved on. So I don't know. The way that this team is right now, it feels really cool to be able to pull back and have kind of a boring offseason, because I know that next year is going to be sick. Like we're going to have so much fun next offseason, I think. So I don't know, man. I'm excited about it.
Totally. And JJ here says, we're finally in a normal NFL team phase, not fantasy football silly season. And actually, I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually.
Totally. And I here's my thing. We're, like you said, we get to take this breath as a Ramley going, all right, we're just going to have our 11 draft picks. But I am of the mindset of the Rams are going to make a lot of trades during the draft. Having the draft capital that they have and the holes that they have, I don't think it's crazy for them to trade back from that second round pick, try and pick up, some more capital in the draft and then trade up here, when they get into later rounds and they see a player that's falling that they really like. I absolutely think that this is going to be an entertaining day 2 and day 3 for Ram fans during this draft.
Well, and let's also not forget that, like, this team, like, and people want to talk, I don't know what is going on right now with this trash talk on Les Snead. Like, all of a sudden, like one offseason, we're like, best hair in the NFL. Let's make a deal, Snead. And then this offseason, it's like, should we probably fire him, right? Like, it's like, well, I mean, no, but, like, I don't know, man. It's I lost where I was going with that whole point, but but the Rams have been able to get people in those later rounds. Like we're seeing a lot of the posts right now on the Rams official social media pages of like snagging Cooper Kupp late, with Jordan Fuller 199 overall, stuff like that. It's like, as long as our evaluations are still doing okay, I feel pretty good about not having a first round pick, because let's not forget also, draft picks are coin tosses. You don't know what's going to happen. Tom Brady was 199 overall, but Marcus Russell was 1. Like, where people are grading out and entering the draft, nothing is guaranteed. Just because somebody's a high pick does not mean that they're going to help your team out this year or ever. So I don't know. I think that's got to be considered too.
Totally. And I think the Rams, like Kevin Dimoff said in his letter to the fans, that they had a choice to make, and they could either try and restructure contracts and make one big go of it, but they'd have an even greater dead cap hit the following year that they'd have to swallow. Or they could bite it now and draft when they have 11 picks in the draft to, develop that talent. And I think they don't make that decision unless they like this draft class. They like a lot of the players. Like, if they have their scouting department that's going, hey, like, this guy, he's looking really good, right? And he's sending his footage to Snead and McVay. I think that's definitely a factor into it. And I'm looking forward to it. The Rams, they're going to get younger. They're going to get a lot more affordable. And I honestly, my biggest thing is, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we need to find starters. We need to find players we can develop. I'm of the mindset of, we do need to find another Cooper Kupp. We need to find more players that can make a play, that not just that, like, they're going to come in and start day one and actually contribute right away. We have the pillars of Stafford and Donald and Kupp for sure, but we need some more pillars in there.
I agree, but also let's not forget that let's just say, because we have 11 picks right now, and of course we all kind of anticipate that the Rams will be moving up and down in the draft. Who knows how many players we'll end up with? But let's just say we end up with 6 additions through the NFL draft. Honestly, in all honesty, if we can pull off 3 guys who actually have a long-term impact, that is a massive win. Realistically, it'll probably be 2. It could also just be 1. It could be none. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, if we could pull off 3 of the 11 to actually have a legitimate impact, even for just the next 4 years while they're under their rookie contracts, that's a massive win. And that's literally, in a nutshell, why I don't really get into the draft stuff that much. As far as like the overall year of football, the draft is the one that I care the least about, because of that like, you're flipping coins. You don't know who's going to have that mindset, like Jamarcus Russell, where he gets drafted and he's got the mindset of like, oh man, I made it, we're here. Or are they going to have a Cooper Kupp mindset where they make it to the NFL and now it's time to get to work? So you just don't know. So we'll be lucky to get 3.
Totally. And I'm of the mindset of, like, what I enjoy about the draft is looking at how teams draft positionally to build their roster. Because the fans, we have our perspective of what we think that the Rams, draft needs are, but then the Rams have their draft needs, right? And 2 years ago, when everyone thought the Rams were going to take, a lineman, like, pretty much every pick of the draft, they didn't draft a single one. And then, you got the Creed Humphrey Tutu Atwell thing that's just will not go away. And so, the amount of Ram fans that have the take, including myself, of, oh, the second round pick, Rams are going to take an edge rusher. I've kind of started to psych myself out of being like, oh, they're probably not going to take an edge rusher, just because that's what literally everyone thinks we're going to do.
Well, this team, we know anybody who covers this team or really pays attention, like, throughout the entire year, not just during football season or during the big events like draft days like that, but people who are in it in March, in June, and stuff like those months, we know that this team is extremely unpredictable. We have no idea what's going to happen. And you could even go back as far enough as to like the Todd Gurley draft. When we picked Todd Gurley, we had Trey Mason and Zach Stacy on the roster. And so we didn't need a running back, but Todd Gurley was the best option. So yeah, pull the trigger, do it. So to say any kind of position like the Rams have to get this position at this pick, I just think that's in the nicest words I can use. That is so much baloney, man. That is like that is ridiculous mindset, and we do not know better than Les Snead, and I don't like when fans pretend like they do.
No, that's fair, right? And if you're a fan, you're on for the ride. You can have your opinions. You have your take. I'll continue to have my take that Daiba is going to be a 6-round steal for whoever gets him, but I only know that from watching tape. I'm not a scout. I'm just a dude that likes football, right? And that's
who's sitting down and meeting with these guys? Who actually sat in a room at the combine asking them questions? Not this guy. So I don't know.
Not this guy. No. Well, Joe, let me talk a little bit about this offseason here. As much as we understand now, I feel like the dust has settled. What were your initial thoughts when, Ramsey gets traded for a 3rd-round pick, Wagner we let walk, Leonard Floyd we let walk, all this laundry list of free agents on the defensive side of the ball just walk. Like, I do see some Ram fans that have frustration of like, why couldn't we have gotten some sort of compensation for Wagner or Floyd? Now, to my understanding, that worked out to be like a contract thing that they had to let them go by the start of the new league year. But like, what were your thoughts and how did you kind of work through some of these moves that maybe aren't the most popular moves for the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the dominoes started falling, and we kind of knew what was happening. Is that we were in a cutting phase, and it kind of just felt like, when's the bleeding gonna stop? Like who's left, And it wasn't no re-signings of the guys that we kind of expected, and some of those that we're happy about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to just like talk trash on people like Taylor Rapp or anything like that, but it was good to see the fact that this team only won 5 games last year, and yes, there was a lot of injuries, but clearly some changes were needed, and maybe especially on the defensive side of the football, instead of paying top dollar for your top 4 guys and then having the rest just kind of filled out. Let's spread those dollars a little bit more. Let's kind of just make it a little bit more even in that sense, which I don't hate at all. But I think what makes me nervous about it is that I already have a lot of questions about the Raheem Morris defensive scheme, and now we just lost a bunch of superstars and a bunch of leaders. So that definitely makes me nervous myself, but also this could be a Matthew Stafford losing Megatron kind of situation where now he doesn't have that safety blanket of a superstar, so he actually gets better. When Megatron retired, Stafford actually was going through all of his reads and not just throwing it into quadruple coverage up to Megatron. So maybe that'll be a similar mindset that we see with Raheem Morris, where instead of just saying like, hey, just put Jalen over there or put him over here, or now over here, let's just see what he's doing. Now he doesn't have that player that can do that. So maybe we'll actually see a little bit more logical defensive scheme, which I'm really curious about this offseason. And as much as I've got like my reservations about Raheem Morris, he's our defensive coordinator, so I hope he absolutely kills it, man.
That's a really interesting thing that I feel like maybe a lot of Ram fans don't talk about is with the departure of so many defensive players, and Raheem Morris is really going to get, I'm assuming, going to have a say in drafting his guys for the scheme that he wants to run this year. Maybe that actually, is a bit of a silver lining for the Rams defense moving forward. We may not see total results of it right up front, but maybe in the years to come, afterwards in this, development year, I am expecting this defense to let up a lot of points. I'm hoping that we don't just see what we've seen the past year of that, bend but don't break. We're good in the red zone, but we can't stop anything up to the 20, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I lost my point again, but yeah. I feel okay about it, man. I like whatever. And he's got my support. As long as he's here, he's got my support. So I'm excited for it, and let's see what he pulls out, man.
And the reality is, when a lot of other defensive coordinator candidates got hired by other teams, and I kind of got to a point where I felt like Morris was our best option, bringing him back. And again, I always feel for guys when they don't get the head coaching jobs, because it seemed like he had a real shot at getting that Colts job, but they ultimately went with someone else. I don't know. Like, I root for Morris, and the one thing positive I think every Ram fan would agree on is players like him.
Yeah.
And
my stand in defense to that, players like Jeff Fisher.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair.
So I don't think that's like
okay,
that.
let's not put Morris on the Jeff. He's not on the Jeff Fisher level. Okay?
I mean, is he not though?
Dude, he was such a good DC through the playoffs to get us the Super Bowl.
Yeah, through the playoffs, and then that's what gave me hope going into week 1 against the Bills, Payo. And then he crushed it. He crushed my dreams by playing 10 yards off on 3rd and 2. Anyway, okay. I have one of my points back is the fact that the addition, though, that I think is underrated is bringing back Aubrey Pleasant. I think he's an incredible coach, and I'm really excited to see what he does with the young guys now that we have lost some leadership in the secondary.
Absolutely. Let's I gotta give a couple of shout outs here. We got SM in the chat, Rudy's in the chat, Mike Anderson, Exotic Soy Sauce. Appreciate all of you guys tuning on in. Sheriff Joe, let's talk Matthew Stafford, okay? There's the stupid trade rumors that I feel like have died off, but realistically, do you think that Matthew Stafford could be poised for a career year for him? And, he throwing 41 touchdown passes, with the Rams, his first year with us. Last year, there were the injury concerns, the concussion concerns, the spinal contusions. McVay has said he's as healthy as he's ever been. In fact, he's healthier now than when he first got to the Rams. Do you think that this offense is poised for, becoming a top 10, top 5 offense again?
I absolutely do. There's a few different things that go into that. And one of the things that I look at is the injuries that the Rams had last year. And obviously, I didn't like those injuries. If I could go back, I wouldn't redo these injuries. And it sucked throughout the whole year. We only win 5 games because we're super beat up. It started with Logan Bruss in preseason, and then it just kind of completely fell apart from there, And so what I'll say about that is we can't change anything about that. So here on April 16th, as we look forward into the draft in this next year, is that now these guys haven't played in a while. They're fresh. And that's not just Matthew Stafford. That's Cooper Kupp. That's a bunch of offensive linemen like Tremaine Ankrum, who's out there working out already and stuff like that. There's we did lose some guys, but like Nopum. And then also on the defensive side, we got, like guys like Jordan Fuller now are going to be back that probably could have been back, but just didn't. And then now, though, they're probably the freshest they've been in years entering this next season. So as much as I would not redo any of that stuff, we can't change what had happened back then. So from this perspective, on this day looking forward, it's actually kind of a benefit that so many guys didn't finish the season last year, because right now they're more healthy than they would have been if we would have had them come back. So I think for that reason, like a guy like Matthew Stafford, who, I mean, once Baker Mayfield comes in, it's kind of like, all right, well, we're just kind of doing stuff now. It's like we're surviving this season. Once Baker Mayfield came in, that's kind of how I felt about it. And it was like, we're going to give him a flyer and give him a chance to put on some tape, and we'll see what happens. And it worked out for a couple of games, obviously.
37 rushing yards.
Yeah, it worked out. Like the Raiders game was wildly entertaining. Being a Colorado-based Rams fan, that game on Christmas Day against the Broncos was absolutely incredible too. So it gave us a few cool stories. But for Matthew Stafford, man, I really do think that he's in a good spot right now, especially the way just the emotions are from last year. Everybody in that locker room, and I think that people who are close to the team in a sense of like really paying attention to everything that happens, guys like, me and you, like we're laser focused in on everything. We sign a long snapper, we're going to talk about it,
Yeah.
So but it's like that, like I feel like we are looking at it from a perspective of like just the emotion is like, that was not who we are. This year should be different, and I think it will be. And I think Matthew Stafford is in a good spot to have an awesome season. Cooper Kupp can stay healthy. That connection is unbelievable, and people have already forgotten about it, man. People, both those guys get hurt for just like half a year, and then the entire NFL landscape is like, so Jefferson's the best, or like all these other guys, like, well, I don't know. So,
Well,
yeah.
and like I'll say that one of the reasons I think that Matthew Stafford is ready for a great year is I believe in his wide receiving core. I know that Cooper Kupp. Any Rams fans will say like we love Cooper Kupp. Him healthy is going to help Matthew Stafford. Van Jefferson, it's an important year for his NFL career, and he's someone who was injured a large chunk of last year, but he has been reliable and had a role in this offense before. And I think at times it kind of got lost last year just because of the quarterback play that we were experiencing. I think that Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek, year 3 for them, very, very important year. It's not unprecedented for year 3 of a receiver to kind of take that leap forward. I know that there's been criticisms on both those players for different reasons, but I think there's reason to believe that they're maybe ready to, elevate their game to a new level. And ultimately, I think if we can have, a variety of playmakers at the wide receiver positions in this offense, well, we've seen it with OBJ and Cooper Kupp, in there at the same time with Van Jefferson kind of as that third wide receiver and Higbee in the tight end slot. This is a dangerous offense, right? And I think that when Ben Skoranek is on, and if Tutu can, continue to work on that deep ball and bring a couple more elements to his route running, make it a little more crisp, a little more polished, I think this could be an offense that takes people by surprise.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. You're right. This is like I think, I don't know if I have like necessarily a lot of confidence in a jump from guys like Tutu or Skoranek, but I think Skoranek's overall a better player right now. But also, who knows? Like I said, it's literally April 16th. What if Tutu and Benny Sko, the Sko plow, what if they're out there right now just absolutely just working, man? Like, what if they come in this next year just – and it's a total breakout season, and these guys are just superstars from here on out. You never know, who's going to take that leap from one year to the next. So I'm really excited. And a name that like is obviously getting like left off, I think for good reason, is Allen Robinson, and just his first season in this offense. And also it was a season where everything kind of fell apart. So we don't actually know what he can bring to this offense. So maybe this is a good year for him. Maybe he kind of jumps out. I'm excited about Van Jefferson. If I had to pick a guy who I think is going to really break out, I would say him. And then there was a comment about Lance McCutcheon. I don't dislike Kutch at all, but there is so much more I need to see from Kutch outside of just like some pretty impressive preseason play. I need to see it in like real settings and stuff like that before I'm like fully on the Lance McCutcheon train. But a kid looks like he can do it, but we just got to see it actually out there when live bullets are flying.
And it's always exciting when you have someone who was undrafted, who has the physical traits that McCutcheon has. And I don't know, as a fan, those are players you like to cheer for and you hope for it. I've heard Lance McCutcheon compared career-wise to Miles Austin for the Cowboys, who did really well. And like, body-wise, there's some similar traits there. And if Lance McCutcheon could develop into a Miles Austin, that's a win for the Rams.
It absolutely is.
Of course.
But that's the thing, too. And I always stand by this one. If like, because he was on our roster and he was active certain games this year. And if the coaching staff is not itching to get somebody out there, there's no reason for us to be, because they're the ones sitting in the meeting room. They're the one watching every practice. They're with them every single day. So if they're not like, we have to get this guy on the field, there is no reason for me to be sitting here with, my beer and my and my fried mushrooms at the bar to be like, this is ridiculous. Millions because like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, totally. Everyone who's watching, thanks for tuning on in. If you put a question in the chat, I will star it, and Sheriff Joe and I will do our best to get to as many as possible here. The first one here is coming from John. He says, do you guys think that Aaron Donald may be traded at mid-year so that they can play in Pittsburgh just before he retires? That's a rumor. John, I'm really glad you brought this up because, yes, the Aaron Donald trade rumors have been plentiful. I personally don't see this happening. I've done the math with just his contract in its current state. I I think it's untradeable in its current form. There'd have to be some sort of renegotiation of some kind. And I think Aaron Donald loves the Rams. I everything that I've seen makes me think he wants to finish his career with the Rams. But Joe, do you have any different thoughts on this?
The part about this rumor that's getting me is the mid-year. I don't think that would be a thing that happens. I think that if he does move on and finish his career at a different place, I think it would very much be where he kind of just plays out a contract and then kind of finishes up somewhere, or it is a massive restructure or something like that. Or I don't know. I guess I would assume that if AD were to move on to a different team, that it would be via free agency, not through a trade. But also, I don't know, man. Nothing. Maybe it's just the Rams fan in me not wanting to see this happen or something. But like, also, I just don't see it. I don't know, man. Especially mid-year, I don't think that would happen. I think that the fact that we've made it already to almost the draft, I think that he's a Ram this year and throughout the whole year.
And even just him being listed as a pillar of the franchise, right? It's those aren't guys you trade.
Yeah, well, and also we lost A'Shaun Robinson and Greg Gaines. Like, do we really need to lose AD now on the defensive line? Like,
if anything, we need to find AD more help on the defensive line.
Yeah, it looks like we're doing. According to our pre-draft visits, it looks like we could get some young help in there, which is nice.
No, it's very exciting. That's why I don't think it's crazy that so many Ram fans think we're taking edge early in the draft, and I'd be here for it.
Yeah.
E-Money, good to see you, saying, I don't think Higbee will be a Ram after this season, but I agree about Ben. He's the type of player that needs to be getting reps. Let's talk about Higbee. Big Rig Tyler Higg, as I like to call him. He is someone that is very much like some games you're like, man, this is like a top 5 tight end in the NFL. And then there's other games of like, where's Higbee? What are your thoughts on Tyler Higbee? He is arguably the best tight end in Rams history. You know, do you see him finishing his career at the Rams?
I don't see why not, but I also don't necessarily see why. I don't know. It's like when I say it all the time. Tyler Higbee is the best tight end the Rams have ever had, and then people immediately will go to like, well, no, and it's like, well, then who is? You know, and I get a few names like that, but statistically speaking, longevity wise, stuff like that, I mean, he's there. He's the guy. He's the best tight end that this franchise has ever seen. But that's also not a hard bar to clear, and the position could absolutely be improved upon. I mean, I love Higbee, and I don't want to see him leave. I would like to see him stick around for a long time. But I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, man? And you're right; it's very hot and cold. It's like some plays, even throughout the game, you're like, this guy's unstoppable, and then the very next play, it's like a drop, and you're like, what are you doing out here, man? Like, you know, so, and that's kind of how I feel about Skoranek. Is sometimes he makes a play and you're like, damn, like that was awesome, and then one hits him right in the chest and it falls to the ground, or he hands the Bengals an interception in a Super Bowl. Like literally, he's like, here you go. So the consistency there is off. I think for both of them, but Higbee, man, I've got no complaints about Higbee. I think he's awesome.
Well, and again, Tyler Higbee's been in the league a lot longer than Ben Skoranek has been. And like Skoranek as a 7th round draft pick has done well for himself. And Higbee, was he a 3rd round for us?
I believe so. That sounds right.
I know he's been with us for a while. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, you know, with all that offseason money that we're getting next year with, you know, that cap space. Is Higbee someone who gets paid, right? So that's I
mean, or also is Higbee as somebody who gets replaced for a guy that, you know, maybe McVay really likes at the tight end position. You know, maybe there's somebody else out there that we feel like we can improve on. Maybe it's not Hunter Long. I know that Rams fans are like already hate him for no reason. he just got here. Can we at least let him suck first before we hate him?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? And Higbee, I think, as far as money goes for Higbee, I don't think that he's going to be a guy that would ever break a bank for anybody. So to keep him around, I don't think is that big of a detriment to anybody.
I'll do it. I did a video reacting to Hunter Long's one catch with the Dolphins for 8 yards.
Oh, I saw it. It was hilarious.
I don't know. It's one of the videos that's done the best for me in the past couple months. But I made it as a joke. But for whatever reason, people think I'm being this serious analysis of oh, he's being congratulated by his teammates. He's a locker room guy. But we don't know anything about Hunter Long.
That's so funny. What if he's so sick though? What if he is so sick? I 100%, and I'm usually not this guy. I've got screenshots of people who are absolutely railing Hunter Long just because I want and that's also a thing I guess that happens to me regularly. The second that the Rams get somebody and Rams fans immediately hate them, I'm full on it. I've fully got their back. You know what I mean? Like the second we draft somebody or bring in somebody like Hunter Long and Rams fans are like, what? We don't need this guy. This guy stinks and stuff like that. I just got his back even more. So I'm such team Hunter Long, man. It's not even funny.
I would love it if Hunter Long went on to be just this Hall of Fame tight end, or at least a really solid tight end. I'd be all about that. Yeah.
I want it so bad, dude. I probably want him to succeed more than he does. I want it so bad.
Oh man, I love it. Sure, we have a couple other things. This isn't Rams related, but we'll quickly talk about it here. I like dogs. I know he's our resident Chiefs fan who always tunes on in, but he's saying Aaron Rodgers gets traded on draft day. I personally don't think so. I think that the Jets are waiting till after the draft so that they don't have to give up capital in this year draft.
It's a very interesting situation going on out there, and it sounds like they're in quite the stalemate. So I honestly saw something from one of my good Jets homies, Boy Green. He actually was talking about the Curtis Martin trade back in '98, where the NFL stepped in. It was Paul Tagliabue, and they stepped in and basically determined the compensation and made the trade happen. And he was talking about how that's not necessarily impossible, that we're in a situation now where it doesn't benefit anybody in any situation for Aaron Rodgers to stick with Green Bay. And I think the league would understand that and could potentially step in on this. I mean, the Packers, people want to say that the Packers have leverage here because they're the ones with Aaron Rodgers. You really going to let a $60 million quarterback sit on the bench in favor of Jordan Love? Are you kidding me? That's such a bad look. So I don't know. I don't think anybody's got any leverage. I think that the Jets don't have any leverage because if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, they're stuck with Zach Wilson. And if the Packers don't trade him, then they have to bench him, or Jordan Love is going to be sitting there so mad. So I think it's a lose. Everybody's losing right now, and everybody could win with a move. As far as a draft day trade, I don't think that happens. I think that either the league steps in beforehand and says, get this done, or we see a post-June 1 trade where the money's actually a little bit different too. That actually saves the Packers some dollars. So,
definitely, I can see that. Back to Rams, I want to talk about who I think is one of the most perplexing Rams on this roster this year. Running back Cam Akers. We had the off-the-field drama, personal issues last year. McVay kind of rung him out in a press conference early in the year. Then the drama happened. They tried to trade him, which we all thought Cam Akers was done as a Ram. Then he comes back and actually plays pretty good for the latter part of the year. Is there any part of you that thinks Cam Akers could be a draft day trade for the Rams, or do you think that he will be the starting running back for the Rams week 1 next year?
Oh, well, that's kind of an interesting little spoiler alert, because that's literally what I have that in my notes that as a name to watch as far as draft day trades for the Rams. I 100% think that's a very legitimate possibility that Cam Akers gets moved. Let's think about the running back position in general. Everybody's got multiple running backs that can be starters in this league. I would argue that the Rams are still in that position, even if Cam Akers were to move away. I think that a guy like Kyron Williams clearly has got the talent to be a good running back in this league. Is he schematically going to fit in? Is he mentally there? Anything like that? Those are all questions that I would never be able to answer, but until we see him like at least on the field. But also, let's not forget that, I mean, in the draft, if you were part of a draft day trade, we could just get another one because they're everywhere. Everybody's a running back and everybody's really good. So running backs are a position you don't pay. Rams are one of the last teams to ever do that, I think, with the Gurley situation. But yeah, you can just go get another one. So I don't think it's impossible one bit that Cam Akers could be traded. But so you kind of referenced how he ended the season pretty strong last year. So what's he going to look like coming into this next year? Is that progress going to be built on, or is it going to be absolutely shattered and he comes in and does not perform? You know what I mean? So there's no telling this offseason. The off seasons are crazy times because it can go any way for any player. Players can just drop off in an off season. Maybe they're not taking it as serious anymore, whatever, or players can absolutely break out because in the off season, they kind of look at their last year and were like, I don't want to be like this anymore. Like I want to be better. And then all off season, they absolutely just bust their butt cheeks and then come in week one ready to play. So who knows what's going to happen, but I don't think it is impossible that Cam Akers could not be on this roster come week one.
Yeah. And I feel like it's just, it'd be weird to end the Cam Akers era the way that it did, because he has had success at the running back position for the Rams. Like he's not just I wouldn't call him a draft bust or anything like that. Like that he's had his highs and he's had his lows and kind of everything in between. And I don't know. I lean of the mindset of if I had to guess, I think Cam Akers is still with the team, but I could see a scenario where he does get traded. I don't see a scenario where he gets a second contract with the Rams. And because at some point he is going to have to look for that contract. And unless him and McVay really, reconciled and have moved past any kind of personal beef that was there, which by all intents and purposes, it sounds like they have. I really don't see a scenario where outside of, Cam Akers just lighting up the league, I don't see him with the Rams for, is this his contract year or is it 2 years from now? I have to look at it.
Might be this one, actually.
He's in a contract year, actually.
Yeah. But also, who is the running back that Sean McVay wants in his offense? I don't think I actually know that answer. I mean, he inherited Todd Gurley, which was awesome, obviously, but then his knee just kind of pieced out after 1 or 2 years of that. And then, like, the guys that we've gotten since Sean McVay's been here is like Cam Akers. It is, Kyron Williams, which I would say have pretty similar styles. I think that a guy that would fit flawlessly in a Sean McVay offense is an Austin Eckler, who's reportedly available right now. I just don't think that happens. I would love that, but I just don't think it happens. But I don't think we even know. I don't know if he knows like exactly the running back that he needs in his offense to really be successful.
Well, and I think the only way that, like, I'll fully admit, when I saw the Austin Eckler trade rumors that had no weight to them, I was like, that'd be really cool, like, to get that. And like, they'd have to work out some sort of deal because he wants a new contract where like he's getting a low salary this year, but then he could get a really nice juicy one next year. I don't know if the Rams are really going to go for that with Eckler, but definitely, something to watch for if you're a Rams fan during this draft is Cam Akers maybe on the trade block.
I don't think there's too many people off limits though. Like I really think that like it's your Aaron Donald, it's your Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp.
Everyone, yeah.
Like that's about like those are the guys that I feel extremely confident will be on this roster week one.
I'd put Haven Stance on there too.
What's that?
I'd put Haven Stance on there too.
Yeah, I would say Havenstein's safe because I think if he were to get traded, I think he might just. I mean, he's not that old yet, but he's he might just be like, nah.
Yeah. Well, and like even like with No Boom restructuring his deal, I don't see that being a trade that they make. But like you're right, the majority of the Rams players, there's
I think departing from any offensive lineman isn't probably at the top of our list right now.
Yeah.
Adding to that group makes a lot more sense, and especially your most veteran guy, Havenstein. So yeah, I talked myself into it. I'm on your side there. I would put Havenstein in there too.
Yeah. Oh man. Welcome, Joe Stevens, one of our resident Seahawks fans. Good to see you as always. E-Money saying, very well said, Sheriff. Even a Todd Gurley or Henry talent I would trade for value. Only positions I wouldn't reset the market for are running back and safety. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen that already with the Rams. Like that, we've made our mistakes, and that's one of my favorite things about this team is that this team is very quick to admit their mistakes and then move on from their mistakes. Like,
absolutely
agree that it was that you messed up by giving Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks and Jared Goff these contracts. Just move it. Just get it. Just decide it was a bad idea and move on. It's like something that the 49ers are not doing right now. Clearly, they're in a situation where they've made a mistake, but we don't know what yet. Like, I don't know if they're willing to admit what their mistake is yet. So we're still kind of waiting. But yeah, it's like we've seen safeties not get paid. Like we didn't even try to pay Nick Scott. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and he was drafted to be a special teams guy. Probably would have been a starter if he comes back this year. But you know, we just don't pay. And it's also like linebacker, we have a hard time paying. Interior offensive linemen, we have a hard time paying. Tight ends, we're not going to pay probably. Like, there's just those positions that you can go win a Super Bowl without having a bunch of dollars invested into certain positions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know he's been saying stuff like Grandizer, good to see you as always, moderator extraordinaire. He asked, who's Casa? Rams Casa.
I'm not a rascal.
Rascal, Sheriff Joe.
I think that might be the first time I've ever been called.
Called a rascal.
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh man. Okay, let me talk about one of our favorite people to talk about, Les Snead. He has been, and I'm working on another video. I think I've talked to you about this. I've talked to other people about this. It's the most work I've ever done for a single video on my channel, and it's based on, you know, Les Snead and just kind of his trade, kind of, you know, I'll call it his trade theology. And it's interesting to me. He's been our GM for over 10 years. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. So much better than the last one, though. And
yeah.
People want him gone, but it's like, you don't remember Billy? Come on now.
Yeah, Billy Devaney. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, as I was doing research for this video, it really hit me of like, whoa, like Les Snead is actually on track to be, you know, considered the greatest GM in Rams history, and even in NFL history. There's not too many GMs that get 10 years with a team. And so in that, what are some of your favorite moments with Rams general manager Les Snead?
Oh man,
like the F them pick things was fun. You know?
That's definitely a good time for sure. Like honestly, the one that sticks out to my brain, and I know that ultimately, if we go through the years of after this move happened, it didn't really work out for the Rams, but absolutely fleecing Washington on that trade for what was it, number 2 overall? Like that. Yeah. That's one that it's like when that move happened, it was like, oh man. Hell yeah, Les. Like, I was so like pleased. I was like, that's my GM right there.
that was 4 months after he got hired.
Yeah, it was great.
Like,
I love that.
Or sorry, 4 weeks. 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like
so good, man.
After he gets hired, and the first thing he does is this huge trade.
And of course, like it turned into like Brian Quick and like players like that. So it's like ultimately it was fine, and we got a couple of good years out of some of those players that we got with those picks, but I mean, ultimately, it didn't really work out for either. I mean, Washington got RG3, like it didn't work out for them either. So I don't know, but that was like the first one. It was like, dang, the Rams are exciting. Like, you know, like we're doing some stuff out here, because for so long the team was so boring. Like would like our most exciting additions were guys like Al Harris, and like we'd bring in like Quentin Michael and like stuff, and it was like, yo, sick, and like Jarius Norwood, and it was like, yo, awesome. Like then we were like doing this, like it was so much more fun. Like, so I was just excited about it for that reason alone. I fully see the NFL and the Rams and all of this as just entertainment. That's why I don't really care about wins and losses. Yeah, it's way more fun to win, but like losing, whatever, it's part of it, you know? So like whatever, I'm just here for all of it. It's just fun, man. It's fun to watch the story unfold.
Totally. And I'll even say this about Les Snead is underrated trade that would have been very hard to pull off is the Bradford for Foles trade and getting a second round pick. Like they trade Bradford for Nick Foles and a second round pick at the time. And there were some other pieces to that. But sort of like it was definitely the Rams were ready to move off of Bradford. Ram fans forget how frustrated we all were that he just could not stay healthy. Which again, I always, what if he could?
Dude, that Browns preseason game, I've never been like that was like such a roller coaster. I remember all of it so vividly. I remember watching it. I remember watching him fall and just being like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Like, and it's like no. And then later on that night, we got a report and it was like, good news. It's like, it doesn't seem as bad as we first thought. And it was like, oh, thank goodness, we're okay. And then the next morning, it was like, yeah, it's a torn ACL. It's like, damn it.
You just gave me huge deja vu. That I totally remember that of like, oh, it doesn't look good. Then the next day being like, oh, it's not as bad. Like he's probably not going to miss the whole season. You're like, oh, awesome. And then the next morning,
the next day, it was like, yeah, it's a torn ACL. He's out. It's like,
oh man. What a roller coaster ride that was.
Yeah, the move for Foles, I remember that specifically too, because I remember that was back when like free agency actually mattered, and you actually had to wait until it actually started to start seeing moves instead of this stupid tampering period. But I hate that. I hate that and mock drafts, my two least favorite parts of the NFL. But I remember that because I was walking around Old Colorado City in Colorado Springs, and I see the notification come in. And it was like the Rams traded Sam Bradford for Nick Foles, and I'm like out there with a bunch of people, and it was like, no way, like losing my mind. It's like, we did it, and I was so excited for Foles. That one ultimately didn't work out either, but yeah, at the time it was exciting.
Well, and like people forget, Nick Foles did have a few good games with the Rams, and I remember his first game as the Ram was a shootout in Seattle, and he went into Seattle with a mission. It was week 1, and I remember he threw right into like to win the game. He threw it right into coverage of Richard Sherman, and Danny Amendola catches it, and I was like, "That's our new quarterback!" Like, love it,
dude. That. Good times, man. I miss those times a little bit where it's like, because my light's going to go out here, by the way. It's going to get oddly dark in here. It's like buzzing. It's about to pop. But,
so it's on fire. Anyway.
It was like, and as cool as it is to like have that 2021 year where like you go into every game knowing that you're just better than the team that you're playing. That's awesome. And it's like we're playing the Cardinals or something like that. And you're like, yeah, we're just going to wreck them right now. But it's also really fun, I think, to go into games and not knowing exactly what's going to happen, and just like that, just like, oh, well, if this guy has a big day, we can pull this off, or if this, or schematically, if we can just do this, then I feel really good about it. Like, there it goes. So it's like, ooh, but yeah, it's just like I like going into games being like, all right, well, if Hercules is going to come in here and maybe they don't have tape on them, so we're going to be able to come in and do this, or if Scarana can have a big game, or maybe this is the week that Allen Robinson really steps up. Like, I actually really like that. I like being like the underdog like that. The Super Bowl, I would obviously never take that away. That was one of the coolest times ever of like, first of all, making it to the Super Bowl that one year, like that NFC Championship game against the Saints when Jeezy hit that overtime field goal, lost my absolute mind, man. And then like this one, it was just so much fun to go into that, and we had that moment. Now I've seen the Rams win a Super Bowl as a child and as an adult. Can't complain about that one bit, So I don't know. There's something fun about going into a game, though, being like, I hope that we can do this. Like, that's if somebody have a big game for me, man. Somebody have a big game. And you don't know who it's going to be. It's like it could be like the 2014 Broncos at Rams game where it was Peyton Manning versus Sean Hill. And it's like, we have no reason to be confident at all during this game. And then Sean Hill hits Kenny Britt deep for a touchdown in quarter 1. And you're like, yo, what? This is all. And then just getting after Peyton Manning on the defensive line. Aaron Donald getting in there, swinging him to the ground and stuff like that. It's like, you don't know when you're going to have that game. And I think that to me is my favorite part about watching football.
Absolutely. Joe, I know we are coming up to an hour here. I see 3 more questions.
Yeah.
Cool. E-Money saying, if y'all start a team with 5 all-pro positions, what positions are you choosing? I'm personally going, quarterback, left tackle, edge, wide receiver, and you know what? I like offense. I'll go running back.
I only got one switch, man. I'm going quarterback. I'm going left tackle. I'm going wide receiver. I'm going edge rusher, an elite edge rusher, and I'm going corner.
Corner, okay, yeah, that's fair.
Just give me a guy who you can put on against Cooper Kupp, against Justin Jefferson, against DeAndre Hopkins, and you know that even though that guy might get some catches, that for the most part he's going to be locked down, and let the rest of the team handle everybody else.
So okay. SM, he points out there was a headline here that's been going around talking about and okay, oddly enough, I feel like a lot of Ram fans talked about this months ago.
I'm so confused at all of this right now.
Yeah.
What happened in the Super Bowl if he didn't have an ACL?
And he tore it in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm legitimately confused, and I've not seen a legitimate explanation of like, oh, it was because of this or anything. It's like we've been told he didn't have an ACL, but he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. Like, I thought it wasn't there.
Well, and even I thought like it was discussed already that the Rams had like they had not been fully transparent with Odell Beckham's status going into the Super Bowl, but now that it's coming out that he didn't even have an ACL, like again, I'm not a medical professional. Well, it seems messed up.
But we also were told that when he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl and had our guys do the surgery, that we repaired the bad job that the previous doctor had done.
Right.
So in my understanding of the entire situation, he just had a kind of lame ACL, like a loser ACL in there that was just kind of like barely hanging on, barely doing its job, just like clocking in and then scrolling Twitter all day is what his ACL was doing. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know, man. I'm so confused at what happened, I guess. I mean, it doesn't matter now. He's not a Ram, so like, who cares? But like, I'm so confused at that. And also, why would you hide that? How can you hide that? Are you allowed to hide that? Like, I don't even have so many.
It's just like the Todd Gurley, injury mystery back in 2018, right? Yeah. Silly fun guy, one of the coolest names on the internet, saying it will be a big year for Ernest Jones. What do you guys expect from our linebacking core this year? This is a fantastic question.
It is a fantastic question.
I don't know, man.
It's like, I feel like you could stop any Rams fan right now and be like, name 4 Rams linebackers, and all of them be like, but I don't know, man. I'm really excited for Ernest Jones. He's already been an extremely talented guy, and now he's had a year to be preparing and working directly with Bobby Wagner, who it sucks that he's gone, but also it makes total sense that he's just back in Seattle. It's like it was fun while it lasted, but like, yeah, he's a Seahawk. Like, it's kind of how I see it. But now Ernest Jones got to work with him for a year, man. I'm excited to see what he can do and to see some of these other young guys. A guy that just keeps popping into my brain is Daniel Hardy. I'm really excited to see him this year, man. Yeah. I really think he's going to get a fair shot, and he's got all the talent. As long as he can stay healthy out there, man, I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Definitely. And I'm looking forward to having a young linebacking core, because again, I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, I do think that the Rams draft at least 1, maybe 2 linebackers in this draft, just based on the need at the position. And I get excited about that. I get excited about a young linebacking core.
Dude, it's fun. Like, even like a guy like Jake Hummel, it's like, is he going to come in? Is he the one working right now in the offseason and getting bigger, faster, stronger, better? Like, he's going to be the one next to Ernest Jones who absolutely pops this year. Who knows? I'm excited for it.
Definitely. A couple more things here. I know you're not a big, draft guy here, but Grandaz was just asking, do you have any college prospects that you hope the Rams might draft? He knows that I'm all about just because I want to say yeah.
I mean, that's totally reasonable. A good nickname is 100% a legitimate reason to pull for a player. I hope Tutu Atwell really pops, because I love every time he scores a touchdown, we all talk about the tutu train. And
Yeah,
I think it's fun.
tutu.
Yeah. Or when Ben Skoronek's at fullback and we call him the Sco Plow. Like that was coined by you, man. That was like, that stuff is so cool to me. So yes, the nicknames are definitely a reason to get excited about specific players for sure. 100% agree with that. As far as draft prospects this year, I will say this, man. I don't get into a lot of pre-draft stuff for a few different reasons. One is, like I said earlier, we have 11 picks. If we take 11 guys, we'll be lucky if 3 of them are actual legitimate contributors.
Yeah.
On top of that, I've gotten a new job this last year, and I work on Saturdays now. So I didn't really get to watch a lot of college football. So I really just don't have a strong understanding. I'll be honest, everything that I've seen like recently about Will Levis, I think that guy's awesome. And I would not be sad
mayonnaise and coffee.
I wouldn't be sad one bit to see him as QB2 behind Stafford. I would be thrilled. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we should do it because he's potentially a first rounder anyway. And we have other positions that I think need to address way before we deal with QB2. But I think that he would be very exciting, and I'd be excited to see him pop up.
Yeah, you always love quirky players like that.
The banana man, that was the one that got me. I was like, all right, cool. Like,
oh,
Funky Town.
I miss Jake Funk just for his name.
Dude, his mom was so cool. His mom, I'll say that, she was one of the nicest people that I've met in Denver. What was that?
That's cool.
It was one of the preseason games not that long ago, but yeah, she was great, man. Really,
that's cool. Well, with a last name like Funk, how can you not be cool?
Dude, straight up, man. I mean, there's so much potential for nicknames with Funk, which is really fun. Yeah, he was. I don't know. I wish he would have stuck around.
Okay, on my watch parties, I had it geared up that if he scored a touchdown, I was gonna play "It's Time to Get Funky, 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 Funky," and I would risk the copyright strike just for that moment. I would.
I love those things that you do, like the Cooper, the Reese's peanut butter Cooper Cup or whatever. Dude, that stuff is so funny to me. We also never got answers from the Rams about Cooper Pup, by the way. And no, we need to know, where's the pup?
Where's Cooper Pup? Yeah. Well, last question here coming in Rampage. He's saying, with our young core, who will have a breakout season next year? Choose one from our offense, defense, and special teams.
Special teams?
We can't right now.
We don't have a special teams. What are you talking
about? I guess the first player the Rams draft to play special teams, that's my guess.
Okay, I'll just throw this one in there for special teams then. I'm going to say that Tutu Atwell is not an offensive weapon for us this year. I think he's our kick returner, punt returner.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. As for defense, I think most Ram fans would say Ernest Jones. Do you have an answer? I'm going to go with my fellow Canadian, Michael Hoyt, who I still dream to interview one day.
That's a cool answer. Dude, Hoyt is dope, man. I like that guy. I think are going to be a good rotation for us on our D-line, man.
I have a friend who went to high school with him. I'm trying really hard to interview. He's like, if I could pick one player on the Ram, I would pick him over like Cooper Kupp or Stafford or Aaron Donald. I need, as the Canadian Rams fan, I need to interview Michael Hoyt.
I mean, that's fair. Mine's 100% Jordan Fuller, obviously, but Hoyt is a good one. I feel like Michael Hoyt is to Payo what Morgan Fox was to me. Like, like local to me. He went to the high school that Morgan Fox went to was like a 5-minute drive from where I'm at right now. Like, I had a buddy that played high school football with him, stuff like that. Like, I met his mom just like randomly. She saw that I was wearing Rams stuff, and she was like, "Oh, Rams, my son plays for them." And he was like, "Morgan Fox?" And she was like, "How did you know that?" It was like, "Because we're in Colorado." Like,
that's amazing.
Like, stuff like that, man. But yeah, that's a good answer. I love that one. My defensive answer, I'm gonna say Yeast. I think Russ Yeast, man. I'm excited.
Knock off the Russ, yeah.
Him and Fuller back there, man. I'm excited for that combo. I was really hoping for a Fuller and Nick Scott combo, but with Scott taking number 27 for the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, I'm excited to see what Yeast can do back there.
And speaking of nicknames,
with Aubrey Pleasant again, Aubrey Pleasant coming back, I think it helps everyone.
I'm just saying, Yeast like the yeast is rising. There's so much we can do with Russ yeast.
Yes, love that.
And for offense, I feel like what I'd like to see Ben Skoranek take another step forward. Maybe see him in more of that fullback hybrid role that we saw him, have some success in early in the year last year. I'm going to go with Ben Skoranek in his third year as a wide receiver.
I'm going to give an answer just because of who I am as a person. I'm going to say Hunter Long.
Yeah,
Hunter Long is here, man. Hunter Long can have an absolutely incredible year. I'm pumped for him. I'm Team Hunter Long for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you for all your questions and comments. And Sheriff Joe, thank you for coming on. This was a blast and a half having you on. Always love when we can collab, bro. Please let everyone know, where can they find you?
Yeah, man. So that's you. That's all social media is just going to be at Sheriff Joe Bags, the spelling here, just with no spaces in it. And then at RAMS Showcase for the podcast content. I'll let you know, we're actually going to make a little bit bigger push for Instagram, actually. That's going to be my next plan of attack. So at RAMS Showcase on Instagram, that's where a lot of attention is going to be used. Also, had some issues with YouTube. If you want to check out what happened there, I do have a video up explaining it. Any questions, I'm definitely down to answer those as well. But that move made for ramshowcase.com, which now exists and is awesome. So head over to ramshowcase.com. We've got our merch. You can't get this specific color. This is kind of the Sheriff Joe Bags exclusive, but there's other different shirts on there. We go all the way from small to 4X. So buy up your shirts. It helps out the show quite a bit. And we'll have more content coming. With the website, not only do we do the audio version, but I have given in, and I am now writing stuff. I'm very hesitant to call them articles, but my mind dumps, my brain dumps are very much there and present. So check it on out. Yeah, merch, the blog, information about myself as well, and my day job and stuff like that. You can find that there also. But yeah, that's all at ramshowcase.com, at ramshowcase, and at Sheriff Joe Bags, just about everywhere. Payo disappeared.
There we go. I have so many custom layouts for StreamYard that I get them mixed up sometimes.
Dude, I love it, man. It looks amazing. You're doing a great job here.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And the draft, we're so close. And as always, go Rams, horns up, and peace out. Let's go Rams. Woo!